Welcome everyone back to the Rock Fantasy YouTube channel. Another episode of the Rock Fantasy Files. I'm your host, Steve Keeler. We are going through what we've turned into a mini series. Us talking about Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, comparing albums, seeing what we like better. One guy in the comments was complaining that it shouldn't be a competition, but it is a competition a bit because we're just, it's two of the greatest heavy metal bands. We're just having fun dissecting, and it's not for everybody, but hey, we're talking about you could throw up a couple different bands next time, but Maiden and Priest are the two heavyweights, and pretty much two of the heavyweights at
It's
least.
not really a competition, though. There's no winner or loser. It's just a discussion
No.
on the two bands.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, we're not keeping score like sometimes, especially because our scorekeeper's not here tonight. Denny Barth.
So we're definitely not keeping score.
Denny keeps score sometimes in the battles, but Denny's got a family function. Tony Dio called in sick a little while ago, wasn't feeling well. John McAtee. So we're down to 6 people. We got the evil 6, I guess, tonight for this.
Yep.
We've got James Delisle from Mighty Crucial Pain in the house. We got Count Ralphus. We've got Christian Majorana. Did I say it right?
No, it's my arena. You know what? I should
Majorana.
have spelled it out phonetically on this.
Yeah, do it for me next time. Well, anyhow, I'm
I'll
trying
try
to
to
get
remember
better.
it.
Obi Rendum is here with his Sodom shirt. And of course, Tim Denenbaum is here, lead vocalist from Hudson Valley, Capital District, New England,
Massachusetts.
British Steel. He got the whole North America, I guess. The northern east part of North America, right? British Steel plays all around. So we're here to talk. We're the last week when we 2 weeks. Was it last? No, it was 2 weeks ago. About every other week we end up doing this. Right now, I think the last ones we talked about were Stained Class and Peace of Mind. So tonight we're gonna leap into 1984.
Ooh.
And we're going to talk about Judas Priest, Defenders of the Faith, was released that year, and Iron Maiden released Powerslave that year. So we're just going to talk about maybe what we like, what we don't like about each record, and he's got them both up. And this wasn't rehearsed, but I did tell people today what albums we were talking about. And when we're done with these, we're going to talk about a couple of their live gems, and then that'll be this episode tonight, pretty much. And Christian's got a little story about meeting Judas Priest, and should have brought Caffrey, I guess he would have told his story about meeting Priest. And Caffrey, I should have probably invited because Chris was at the Albany show last week. I was there too. It was the second to last night of the North American tour, and Chris went there, and he went backstage and actually met Rob and met. He knows the band because he met them by winning a contest in a Paramus, New Jersey record store when he was like 12 years old. He's mentioned this story already on the channel. And so now, like, he's always been welcome to them. And of course, now he's a superstar. He grew from a 12-year-old kid that just was a metalhead and won this contest. And he got to meet Judas Priest back then. And he went up and he said, and visit with Rob and visit with Ian and the rest of the band. But Rob actually shared his picture on his Instagram. So Rob took a picture. He called him Mr. Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And of course, Chris and his little mascot Wilbur were there and got a picture with Rob Halford. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah,
Anyhow, let's talk Priest. And this is still all James's fault. So if you're mad at James already about something, and you're sick of us talking about Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, we thought this was going to be like one episode. It's going to go on off probably for most of the summer here because we get about 2 albums in, and we've got plenty of stuff to talk about with them. But
a lot of ground to cover.
We're going to kick this off with you tonight, James. And
shit.
We're going to let you talk about these 2 albums and what one you get if you give the slight nod to one or the other.
All right. So we got, what is it now? Powerslave versus
Defenders of the Faith.
Let's start with there you go. let's start with album covers. Album cover for fucking Defenders of the Faith is killer. I really love. I think they call it the Sentinel.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's what it's called, the Sentinel? It's really
Yeah.
badass,
Italian on the back.
really badass, and really,
But
you
yeah,
know,
is it the Sentinel or is it the Battalion?
On
'Cause
the
it
back,
says
it says the
Battalion
back
on
of the
the back.
record
The
right there
Battalion is the
says the
symbol.
Battalion. So I
The
don't know.
Battalion's the symbol. The Battalion
Oh.
is the cross thing.
Ah,
Oh
okay.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think you're right then. Yeah, Sentinel.
look at Ralph teaching us stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ralph. That's why Ralph is here, because he keeps us in line.
Exactly. So yeah, I love the cover.
You're on mute, Tim.
Keeps the similar artwork from Screaming for Vengeance going, because I think it's the same dude, right?
Yep.
Killer. And now let's look at the artwork for Powerslave. Oh, sorry about that. Powerslave.
Oh boy, someone's starting trouble already. Sorry, Dave.
Hey, the fat Brett Michaels has to get his shots in whenever I can, right? So yeah, this is one of my favorite Derek Riggs artworks. Right after Number of the Beast. I love this one because there's just so much to it. This was always one of my favorite albums to get stoned and just stare at the album cover while the record plays. Really love this one. So I'm going to give the nod as far as artwork is concerned slightly to Powerslave because there's just so much cool shit going on there. Now, song-wise, on Powerslave, we got Aces High, 2 Minutes, Lost for Words, Flash of the Blade, Duelists.
Mm-hmm.
Was never crazy about Back in the Village. That song always just kind of, for me personally, was just sort of there.
Yep.
Never really liked the Duelists all that much either. But I love Powerslave, and being a bass player, I love Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. That's just a killer track. Now, if we go back to Defenders, Free Will Burning. I mean, that's a thrash song as far as I'm concerned. Jawbreaker, Rock Hard Ride Free. That's really good, fun 80s metal right there. Sentinel Rules. Love Bites gives you a little, I don't know, I feel like it gives you almost a little bit of a glam vibe for that era. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not.
Playing it on, they played it on the tour this year.
Oh, did they?
Mm-hmm.
Eat Me Alive is cool. Some Heads Are Gonna Roll. It's one of my favorite tracks on this. Night Comes Down. Not a great song, not a terrible song. And I always felt this album ended a little weak with Heavy Duty and Defenders of the Faith, personally. That being said, I reached for Powerslave a little more than I reached for Defenders of the Faith. And I don't hate any song on either one of these fucking albums. They're both killer, but I reach for Powerslave more. I think it's got more, I don't know, there's a lot more guitar shit going on in it. Of course, there's going to be more bass stuff going on in it because as solid as a rock as Ian Hill is, he's not the caliber of bassist that Steve Harris is. So, for what it's worth, I love both albums, but I'm going to take Powerslave.
Cool. And I'll agree with you on Back in the Village. For some reason, that song, I really don't like it. And I like most of all this earlier Iron Maiden stuff. I mean, we're getting to, they're in a few albums with this one, of course, but Back in the Village, I don't know. It's a core. I think it's a decent song, but the Back in the Village and the Back in the Village and the Back in the Village, that part, just kind of, that song a little bit annoys me too. So I'll agree with you.
But I watched the show The Prisoner, because The Prisoner from Number of the Beast, this is a follow-up to Back in the Village.
Okay.
And if you watch that show, it's it has a lot to do with that show. It's a Dickinson song, so.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yep. And I guess we're gonna kick it over to Count Ralphus. He's just he's on my top shelf to the other side where James is on my left and Ralph is on my right on the screen tonight. Tim, you know you're on mute, just so you know.
Yeah, he's been on
Yeah,
mute all.
I muted it for a second. Thanks for
Okay,
reminding me.
just so you know, in case you had
Yeah,
pop
I did
something.
mute it for a second.
Count Ralphus, are you ready?
So I fucking love Back in the Village. That song
Okay.
is great. It's one of the heavier
Mhm.
songs on the album. Imagine a Back in the Village on one of the later albums. That would be the heaviest thing they did in years.
True about that, yeah.
I love
point.
that song. It's weird. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about that one. I love
Just-
every song.
Just
on
me
that
and
song.
James.
We're the troublemakers.
I love every song on this. I grabbed the Derek Riggs book out, and I should have grabbed all my 7 inches and stuff. I had like a half an hour to prepare for this, but
Oh, nice. This Colors Don't Run. That's a good book.
yeah, this book is great. It's got all his artwork from this whole period. Once you get to the album, that like each album has its all the 7 inches and the singles and stuff, all the artwork. I got the 12-inch for that. Aces High,
Mm.
and but yeah, this is a great book. It tells a lot of the little Easter eggs in each drawing and pictures, but I got to go with the Powerslave album cover, even though I love that Defenders of the Faith album. And that guy from Defenders of the Faith, he also went on to do the Turbo album, and then that was pretty much it. But I love Defenders of the Faith with the Sentinel and Some Heads Are Gonna Roll and Free Will Burning. That was like almost a thrash song, you know. They sing so fast in that song. I love both of these albums. I really haven't thought of like which one I like better. I guess I'd have to say Powerslave by a hair, but I've said it before. Like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest around this time era, my whole room was just posters of both of these bands, and they were like my two favorite right around that time. And so yeah, it's really hard to choose between them, but I'll have to go with Iron Maiden.
Okay. Cool. I agree. The album cover for Powerslave is just it's a masterpiece. And of course, the Stern Pinball Company, when they did the Iron Maiden pinballs, the Powerslave is the premium edition, which I have in my shop, and it's the Egyptian themed pinball.
Is it this
So-
cover though? It's got like Somewhere in Time guy with the Egyptian stuff. I
No,
can't see.
the pinball machine, it doesn't have that exact art on it. Of course, the pinball machine art was not done by Derek Riggs either. It was
Yeah,
done
neither-
by I believe Zombie Yeti. So Christian, what's going on down there?
Not too much. So yeah, I mean these two albums, like the guys were already saying, both awesome album covers. I would agree though, I think I like the Powerslave record cover a little bit better. There's so much detail in it, and it's definitely worth like I think with a lot of the Maiden now, I think like this one and Somewhere in Time, it's like you gotta have it on the LP to really really truly appreciate
Mhm.
the artwork, just like the amount of detail in there. As far as the good and the bad on these, there's nothing bad on either of these albums at all, in my opinion. There's nothing I say I really dislike. I think I like all the tracks on these, but then there's some tracks you like better. I mean, with Powerslave, I mean you got Aces High, 2 Minutes to Midnight, Lost Our Words, which is the instrumental track, which is I think one of the better ones they do. Not unlike the ones that they did on there was the one on Iron Maiden, and then there was Genghis Khan on Killers. I think I like Genghis Khan a little bit better than Lost for Words, but that's a cool one. Duelist. I mean, Powerslave, when he comes out and he does that live with the owl mask thing, it's fucking amazing. And Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. I mean, I think this is the first time where Maiden did like the really like long song, but it's like freaking awesome. Unlike some of the more recent albums where they seem like they do long songs just for the sake of being long.
Mm.
It seems to me, but this is like it's still got that Maiden gallop to it. Amazing.
It's their first time dipping their toes into prog, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. But then we got Judas Priest. Um, man, Free Will Burning, Jawbreaker, Rock Hard, Ride Free, Love Bites. There isn't. I love every song in this album. I think maybe like the weakest one is a track like at the very end, the
Yeah.
Heavy Duty Defenders of the Faith. But I think the rest of the record is just so awesome. It's like it's okay that they coast a little bit at the end. This was actually the first Priest record that I ever bought, and I bought this LP at Merle's Record Rack in Wallingford, Connecticut, for $2.98 back in 1999.
Can't beat
And I'm
that.
not going to find it that cheap today.
Nah.
Hell no.
But yeah, I remember, I was already familiar, like I knew who Judas Priest were. I was actually already into Fight at that time, the War of Words. So I was familiar with Rob Halford. I thought he was an amazing vocalist, but I didn't really start listening to Priest yet, but I knew like, they're the iconic like heavy metal band. So then I found this on the record rack. I had that summer, I had purchased a turntable 8-track uh, radio combination and kind of had a jerry rig set up with the CD player and all of that like hooked up through it. So I got this record, I brought it home, put it on, and just like immediately I just fell in love with this album. Immediately. Um, it's just it is my favorite Judas Priest record. There's other ones that are definitely like very
Wow.
close to that, but it just without a doubt. And I remember I bought it like it was like in the fall time when I bought it. So every year, like in the fall, I always like it's like a I don't know, it's like a religious experience where I got to put on some Priest. So of the two, it's the one that I probably prefer over these two particular albums. But I mean, they're both amazing records. Yeah, what else can I say about them? But they both kick ass. So, but I'm going to give my vote to Priest.
Cool. Obi,
Yeah.
your
Well,
turn.
I have to be the first one to probably say something. This ironic because both albums has a very stale sound. It's ironic because they came out the same year, and the mix of Defenders of the Faith is not as round or as deep as say Screaming for Vengeance or even Turbo for that matter. It's just they sound so compressed. It's like those songs sound so much better live than they do on the album, on both albums really. As for Powerslave, I really love Powerslave. I like we talked about earlier, Back to the Village because of the prisoner thing. I've seen the show, so I really like it. Bruce Dickens grew up with that show on TV, so he's very fond of that show. The Duelists is based on a movie from late 70s with Harvey Keitel and one of the brothers. I can't recall his name, but he plays in Kill Bill. He's Kill Bill, but his brother plays. It's set in the
David
sword
Carradine.
fights back in the 1600s and stuff. It's a good movie. But that's a lot of Maiden songs are based out of movies they like to watch and stuff. And Bruce Dickinson is into fencing and stuff, so I guess there's a lot of things. Powerslave is kind of almost Bruce Dickinson's album in a way because he has the title track and he has almost the middle of the album. Defenders of the Faith, I really like. It's my third favorite Priest album. It's like it's really dark in a way compared to their other albums. Defenders of Faith is kind of like a dark. It has a slumber like feel to it. It's all about misery and like this and stuff. And the last two tracks is kind of like an anthem thing, I guess they use. It's kind of like because anthem started to be really big, like, and it seems like they are filling it. But I would like if they started the album with like one and like ended with other instead of having them at the end. So you kind of like start the song with Heavy Duty and like it's okay. This is kind of a slow album and it's kind of like, and then Free Will Burning just pow. But as in for album covers, Powerslave, no doubt about it. Even though Defenders of Fate, I would have to say, is probably Judas Priest's best cover, like front cover.
All
Yeah,
righty.
that's it for me.
Tim, what's your point of view on these two?
Wow. Yeah. So the interesting thing about these two albums, as it turns out, those two albums, those are the tours I saw both those bands for the first time. I saw Judas Priest in March of '84. Yeah, it was March of '84. Defenders of the Faith. And I think it was the following. I'm trying to think. I think it was '85 when I saw Maiden, but it was the Powerslave tour. I want to say it was May. Album cover wise, yeah, I would definitely say Powerslave. These albums are that was when I was really starting to really get into both these bands heavily. And this is honestly a very tough one for me because that era for Maiden for me that was like my favorite era of Maiden too. So, and then of course Defenders. I mean, playing in British Steel. I mean, we still do the majority of that album live, and we always prominently feature Defenders whenever we play. And Powerslave, I mean, again, Aces High. I just remember them opening up with that, and it was just phenomenal. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, which I absolutely love, and in some ways, I think it kind of ruined Maiden because ever since then, I feel like they've been trying to recreate it. But honestly, and I haven't listened to the album in a while, but I cannot remember not liking any song on an album. So people were kind of bashing Back in the Village, but I remember liking that song. So I gotta go back and listen to it. It's been a while. Same thing with Defenders. I mean, everything on this album. I remember on the Defenders tour, they did everything off the album. The only song they didn't do was "Eat Me Alive." They did everything else but that. And it was amazing.
Where'd you see that? Where did you see that tour? Who opened up for him?
Great White opened for him. It was in Glens Falls. Yeah, Glens Falls Civic Center. That was when Great White wasn't that well known yet.
Wow.
I used to go to Glen Falls Civic Center all the time. I used to have all these things written in a book. I'm not sure where I saw that tour, but I know I did. But I don't quite remember seeing Great White with them, but maybe I didn't. My memory's
yeah, it was
foggy
Great
from back
White,
then.
and it was before they were still like hair metal. It was like before they really got into the bluesy thing.
Yeah.
Did they use
then-
pyro?
No, they didn't. Priest might have, but they didn't. When I saw Maiden Accept open for them, now they were touring for Metal Heart. That was
That's
awesome.
a nasty tour.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, and honestly, it's tough for me. I mean, almost like a dead tie for me. These two albums, they really, it's hard for me to pick. You know, my heart always says Priest, but I'd almost lean towards Powerslave. Believe it or not. I mean,
You saw the Powerslave tour at Glens Falls also?
yes, it was.
Glens
The funny
Falls
thing about
getting all the
that-
shows back then.
yeah, because that show was supposed to be in January of that year, and then I guess they just played down in Rio, and they all got sick. They came back to the States, and they all got sick, so I had to cancel that show. And they
Oh,
rescheduled it for May. And the irony is, Triumph did the same thing. They were supposed to play in January. They canceled too because of illness, and they rescheduled in May. So I saw both Triumph and Iron Maiden at Glens Falls the same month. But yeah, I'd give maybe a slight edge to Powerslave. And that's saying something because Defenders is like I say, that's my first experience with Priest. But man, it's so tight between those two albums for me. It's hard, but I'll be nice and say I'm going to go with Maiden this time because I've mostly been going with Priest on everything. So I'll give them some love.
A little off topic, but we're talking about Glens Falls Civic Center.
Yes.
You know, if any of the viewers have ever gone to Glens Falls Civic Center, it's up in the foothills of the Adirondacks, sort of by Lake George, and mention shows you guys have been to in the comments. But do you remember there used to be a rock and roll store like mine that was in Glens Falls about a block or so from there. It was called Rock World.
Really?
Do you remember that store?
I never been in, I was never in
Oh,
there.
okay.
Man.
Because we used to go to that store all the time before a show, and it was a cool store. It was a upstairs and a downstairs. I actually bought their blacklight poster rack. They had had a robbery or something happen. This was back when smoke shop stuff was taboo, and I don't remember all the details, but someone had broken and something to do with pipes, and he ended up going out of business. And I went up and I bought a few items from them. And this was in when they went out, it was probably in the late 80s, early 90s. But and Triumph, who were they touring with that year?
That was
Remember?
85. That was Thunder 7. It was Mountain.
Wow.
Oh, so that was Mountain, Triumph, and Loudness, right?
Well, when they played there, it was just Mountain. Loudness didn't play. with them.
Okay, so I saw that at the Brendan Byrne or the Continental Airlines Arena, whatever you want to call it, the building that
Yeah.
still stands but hasn't had shows in years.
Right.
But where the Devils used to skate,
Yes.
that had Loudness on it too. We went pretty much for Loudness that time.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned that, because I think it might have been the last episode we were talking about Judas Priest at Albany, at the arena in Albany. Megadeth. You mentioned Testament, but Testament didn't play with them. It was just Megadeth at that show. So apparently, some shows all three bands were playing.
I thought Testament was there too. I thought that was a triple bill that night.
Nope, it was just Megadeth.
Okay.
I never saw Testament. Yeah, that I know they were playing with them some shows, but that one was just the two of them.
We need Chris Allo here to Google this.
Well, back in 85, they would be called Legacy.
No, it wasn't 85 for the Priest.
Okay.
It was Painkiller Tour.
Yeah, it was 91.
Okay.
Yeah.
One.
All right.
But yeah, no, it was just Megadeth. I remember that it was.
Maybe something happened where Testament was on that tour, but maybe something happened. They didn't play that night. I don't remember.
To play or something, and they didn't. I forget, but it could have been something like
sick
that.
or something.
Yeah, it could have been something like that.
So
what year was that Triumph and Mountain tour?
That was Triumph was on Thunder. It was Thunder 7.
So that's like 85, 86.
Yeah,
85. Yeah.
That's probably. Here's a story I probably shouldn't be telling on the internet. My brother sell cocaine to Leslie West back then.
Rock stars.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
My brother got popped in 87, so he was probably dealing blow to Leslie at that point. It's pretty cool.
Rock stars do drugs? Is that some news you guys there, James?
Crazy talk.
I remember Leslie was sweating like crazy that night, and Mountain did they had this weird trick where the drummer would hit the stick on the end of the snare drum, and the stick would go flying, and Leslie would catch it. But he did it like 3 times, and Leslie would try to jump, but he was so fat at the time he'd get like 2 inches off the air, and I'd miss it each time. And he finally caught it. Everybody went nuts. Everybody was like, "Yeah!" He finally caught it. It was a weird trick. He hit the drumstick and it went flipping out, and he would catch it. But it was funny. And Loudness that night was really funny too, because they come out and they say, "We love you, fucking New Yorkie," and they were in New Jersey, and then they were saying, they said, "We love it, the smoke and the party." Everybody for like 2 months in school, every time we see each other, we're like, "We love the smoke and the party."
Well, in Loudness defense, they're from Japan and from the Continental Airlines Arena, the Brendan Byrne Arena, whatever you wanted to call it back then. If you were standing on the steps to go in it, you could see Manhattan because it's literally across the river. So it's pretty close. They're in New Jersey. Of course, this goes on with our sports teams too. That the New York Giants and New York Jets play right there too, and they're not actually they actually should be the New Jersey Jets and the New Jersey Giants. So, right?
True.
But yeah, that was one thing. What was that tour called, Ralph? That had like a name to it. I can't remember now.
I still have the tour shirt for the Triumph.
The Summit or something that was called.
I haven't looked at it.
Yeah. Anyhow, we're way off topic on Priest. But that's why we're here, though. We're talking concerts, right?
That's it.
It's good to go off topic a little bit. Maybe someone will yell
Exactly.
at us on the comments, but you guys are supposed to be talking about this. So I'm going to start out with Priest. If I'm comparing album covers, I'm going with Powerslave. This is a great album cover. They're actually selling this T-shirt on the tourist, I believe. They're selling this shirt on this year. I believe on this year's tour. And I was listening to this just before we went on tonight. I was doing a lot of yard work out back today. I'm pretty roughed up from painting fences and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Hard work for an old man. But it starts off, of course, with Free Will Burning. Jawbreaker is heavy as hell, I think.
Yeah, it is.
And it's
Yeah.
like the end of it where he's like, Jawbreaker. That could be like a James Bond theme.
Yeah.
I don't know why
Good
my
one,
brain
good
works
one.
that way, but it's just like it's so epic, it's so heavy.
Maybe you're thinking of Jaws, the character from the movie.
Yeah, Jaw.
Mhm.
Yeah, there you go. Jawbreaker is fine. Good thing. I just feel like like Thunderball, stuff like that. Rob Halford should do a James Bond theme, but they're always epic. But Rock Hard, Ride Free.
Steve, you do know what that song is about, right? You know what Jawbreaker's about.
It's probably
Oh,
about
no.
probably about something we can't talk and get monetized about. Yes.
Oh no. I know what it's about. I've read Rob Halford's book.
And maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what it was about that gum.
About eating hot dogs or something. Yeah.
Close. You're very close. You're very, very close.
Then we got the Sentinel, which is one of their best songs. Love Bites, still a pretty cool song. Eat Me Alive, Some Heads Are Gonna Roll. This
There you
album,
go.
it just stays heavy and great. And then you do get to what's more like the epic-y kind of ballads as you go into Night Comes Down, Heavy Duty, Defenders of Faith, more like anthems. But this
Soccer
album,
chants.
yeah, kind of soccer chants, Denny, who's not here tonight. He doesn't like soccer chants, but I like soccer chants and music, so I don't care. So as we talk about Judas Priest, I don't know which one. It's tough, like you say. It's such a great album, Defenders is, and Powerslave also. I mean, it kicks you in the face with Aces High. Then it goes in 2 Minutes to Midnight, two of their greatest songs. Lost for Words, I mean, it goes down a
I
little
love
bit.
that instrumental.
Yeah. Flash of the Blade, killer song. The Duelist. Back in the Village, I probably like more than I mentioned. Maybe I just hopping in with James on that. I'll probably listen to it and I'll probably say I was wrong about that. But it's something about that chorus that kind of irritates me sometimes. Powerslave, epic, and of course the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner.
That song was supposed to be longer, but the record company did cut it down where it is. They had more pieces to it, so it could have been longer.
Who's got a coin? I think I'm going to flip a coin and call heads or tails with this one. I consider them just about a tie.
Tails to die.
You got a coin over? You want to flip a coin
Nope.
for me? No. All right. I'm going to give the slight edge to Defenders of Faith. Is it because I just saw Judas Priest? Maybe. So maybe in October when I go see Maiden and I'm fresh off that, I might say Maiden. But I probably do listen to, over the years, I've probably gone back to Powerslave a little bit more. But tonight I'm going to go with Defenders.
All right.
So I guess that wraps up chapter 1. There's only 6 of us tonight, so I don't feel like this is grand enough to talk about these 2 records. But we're going live. So we're going to talk about Unleashed in the East. And we're going to talk about Live After Death.
Holy cow, look at that artwork. I mean, oof.
Well, we know the artwork from this one is going to be more exciting than the artwork from Unleashed in the East. But the Unleashed in the East album cover, to me, is epic also. Even though it's
Oh yeah.
a live album, but Live After Death, I mean, how many t-shirts is this, just this logo sold, and just that artwork sold. Of course, that's Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden artwork and Eddie. How iconic is it? So we're going to talk about these two records, what we like, what we don't like about them. I wish that Tony Dio was there. Oh, Tony Dio did mention he was going to take Powerslave by a thread on that one. He was going to make us had his notes done, but was feeling a little under the weather. And I will give his pick for these two too at the end. So just remind me. So James, once
Yo.
again, it's your turn.
Wow. So you're asking me to compare my two favorite live metal albums of all time. Because I guess we couldn't really call. Can we call Kiss Alive 1 and 2 metal? Is it metal? I
It's
don't
metal.
know. Is it metal?
Kiss for
Yeah.
metal.
80s, 70s metal.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
They're heavy metal concerts, Kiss shows, aren't they? I mean, they're hard rock. But...
I would
I
think
just saw
so.
Ace Frehley the other night.
Oh, you want the Ace?
Oh,
too?
nice.
Yeah.
Where was
That was
that?
good.
Mohegan?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
that
I
was
just
good.
saw him last year. He still puts on a good show, man. He still kicks ass.
Oh, yeah.
So, man, wow. I mean, album covers.
Mm-hmm.
Album covers. I mean, how do you beat that?
Hard to.
Pretty epic.
How do you fucking beat that? I mean, I love this too, because when you listen to Unleashed in the East and you're staring at this, and maybe you've got a couple of adult beverages in you, maybe you've got a few tokes of sweet leaf in you, it takes you right there. It fucking takes you right there.
Mhm.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And the thing with the Maiden record too is there's so much going on, all the pictures inside.
That's cool.
That's a Super 7 reaction live after death figure.
And then with the album sleeves, you got so much going on. And then with this album sleeve, you got so much going on, so much to stare at, so much to keep your attention. I don't know if Stephen, if you still got the booklet inside yours.
There. Let's see. Yes, I do have the
With the
booklet.
itinerary and all that.
I do have the booklet. Yeah.
All that shit is awesome. So it really gives you, for me, when I first got this was like, all right, I need to be in a band and play live, because seeing all these live pictures, it's just so fucking exciting. And it's just like, yeah, I want to run away from my awful town and get away from my fucking awful life and do this for a living. But the same thing with Priest too, man. It's again that front cover, just in all their majestic glory, and the back cover, Alfred on the bike, that's just so cool, man. Why do I have to choose? Honestly,
it's pretty tough, and but I tell you,
I think I gotta be honest. I think I reach for Unleashed in the East a lot more. As much as I love Live After Death, I go for this Priest album more, because some of these songs come off better on the live recording than they do on the album. Like some of the Sad Wings of Destiny songs, for me, come off a little bit heavier and a little more aggressive on this than they do on the recording. And that's because, the production for Sad Wings was not the greatest. Even the band admits that, even though it's not terrible, but oh boy. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with our boys in Judas Priest on this one, Unleashed in the East. I definitely reach for this one considerably more. Like I go to this album a lot, especially when I want to hear 70s era Priest. This is the one I go for this one a lot. So I'm taking Unleashed in the East.
Yeah, well, I mean, Unleashed in the East is my favorite Judas Priest record, so I'm not going to tell you my picks yet, but I guess
It's
I'm
one of my
hinting
top
at.
favorite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's one of my top favorite too.
Count Ralphus.
Is the centerfold of all that detail, like he was saying. I mean,
Mhm.
when you look through that album with the booklet and everything, there was you had stuff to look at the whole time you're listening to that album. This
That's
is
right.
even this is even harder than, and it was like that with Number of the Beast. You look at all the little demons in there and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
Powerslave too. But yeah, this is harder to me than the last two that we just compared, because for me, Iron Maiden, this is all my favorite Iron Maiden stuff in one
Mm-hmm.
live album. Like, because for me, it's Powerslave Down was, they never did better than that. So it's like perfect time for that album to come out. The one thing I can't stand on that album though is Running Free. They do the fucking, let's hear the guy up in the balcony. Let's hear this guy over the third row over here. It just goes on and on. It drives me nuts. You have to, like, if back on vinyl, you had to get up and like flip it to the next song, but now you can just press a button and move to the next song. But I got to go with Unleashed in the East, because, like he was saying, every song live there sounds better than the studio version, and I don't feel that way with the Iron Maiden. They're all powerful, but I'd have to go with the studio recordings for the Maiden, where Priest, it's only a single album, so that's the weird thing too. It would have been nice if they were the same kind of length, but
Yeah.
Unleashed in the East, it's like hits you, and it's there's no filler. It's just all the way through. It is perfect album for a live album, one of the best live albums ever. And I would probably, if I could pick that as my favorite Judas Priest, it would be, even though it's kind of cheating, but yeah, Unleashed in the East.
Cool.
Oh, and I got the McFarlane Live After Death figure,
Oh yeah.
and
Nice.
I got the Live After Death bobblehead. And this
Nice.
thing kind of, it's like this is a Live After Death, like Eddie in the box, and when you press the button, it used to play something from the album. I can't remember. It's been so long. But Eddie would pop out at the end. But he's
I
kind of
don't think
stuck
I've
in there
ever.
now.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Me neither. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I got an Ozzy one too. I got a Bark at the Moon one, and Ozzy pops out as the werewolf. So it's around the same time that they made those big boxes for
I
Ozzy and the
I I had one that was Alice Cooper in a box, and I forget who else. Someone gave them to
That's
me.
part of it. Yeah, there was the Alice Cooper one too. I didn't get that one, but
And
that was part of it.
they were very, whatever popped out was a very rubbery substance, and
Yeah.
they got rotted. Like the two I
Yep.
had, I think one might have been Rob Zombie, and the other one
Yeah, it
was
was a Rob
Alice
Zombie
Cooper.
one too.
And
Yep.
but they both, I don't think they're even in the store anymore, because they just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, I still got mine in the boxes. I never opened them because I remember the fingers were falling off and stuff. They were
Yeah,
rotting away.
like the rubber. It was like an
I
old,
just
like
figured,
those really cheap. Like, remember the old Halloween masks you'd get, and you try to preserve them, but they'd kind of get like that rubber would get like brittle.
Yeah.
Same thing.
The latex.
Yeah, the latex would. Yeah. Okay, so Ralph, any more show and tell? Should we move over to Christians?
Yeah, you can move over.
Christian, what's up, brother? Welcome back.
Yeah. So both these live albums, I mean, they're both so iconic. I mean, I think the Judas Priest Unleashing These, that was probably their first really big album in the US. I don't think anything they did, although 70s albums really, at the time when they came out anyway, really made an impact in the US. They were probably very, somewhat underground, I guess, but Unleashed was kind of the one that put them on the map a little bit.
Yeah.
And like the guys are saying, that album cover with Halford on the bike, I mean, it's iconic. I mean, like that was like, it could be one of the first albums that really kind of like defined, like at least image wise and music wise, like defined like what heavy metal is,
Agreed.
But then, you get, the album cover on Powerslave with Eddie like rising out of the grave. And you know what? I hadn't seen those inside photos that you were shown before in, oh geez, so long, but now it's like seeing it now, it's like, oh yeah, I remember seeing all the just like the different pictures of the mummified Eddie and everything. Like I said, saying before, Bruce Dickinson when he puts on the feather fucking owl mask when he does Powerslave.
The flames.
Yeah, it's
That was wicked.
awesome. I mean, I didn't see them back then. I was still too young to be listening to metal, I guess. But I do remember seeing Maiden at Madison Square Garden, maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little longer. And they
Okay.
did play that song live, and the power went out like in the middle of it, and the
Wow.
band's like playing soccer on stage or whatever while they're waiting for the power to come back on. But yeah, this is a tough one to decide which one of these live albums I like better, because I think, Powerslave was like almost like the best of Iron Maiden up to that point. The way like Unleashed in the East was for Priest is really that kind of like the best of like all those 70s things. One thing I like about not Powerslave, Live After Death is
Yeah.
that recorded intro with the Winston Churchill speech, where
Oh
he's like,
yeah.
Yeah.
"We'll defend our island, whatever the cost may be," and then like, "We will never surrender," and then fucking goes right into Aces High. I mean, it's fucking awesome. Like, I want to fucking defend the British island when I fucking hear that, and then Maiden
Yes.
comes. Oh, this is a tough one. I think I'm gonna give the slight edge to me. Like, honestly, I'm not like a big live album person. I definitely listen to, like, I don't go back to the live albums a lot, but both these live albums are really great. So I haven't listened to either one though in a very long time. But I think I'm gonna give the slight edge to Maiden for this one.
Okay. Hey, there's no
But I
wrong.
love. I
There's
don't
no.
hate either one.
There's
They're
no
both
wrong choice here, really, because
It really
I tell
isn't.
you, I mean, they're both great albums. I'm glad you mentioned the Winston Churchill
Yeah.
intro because it's just so iconic. And
badass.
such history and
Yeah.
come out and then say Aces High. It's just epic. Obi, wake up down there.
Yeah.
Obi's listening to these albums for the first time, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen.
Damn, you caught me.
He's like, wait a minute, Iron Maiden? Is that a band?
Yeah,
I just have the T-shirt. My friend got it for me at Hot Topic, but I don't know any of the songs. There's a lot of that going on in the United States. I don't know if it's going on in Europe too for our Europe viewers, but there's a lot of people that buy rock shirts that had no idea who the band is that they walk around with on. Not to say Obi's
like
doing
the
that. I'm just
mascot.
picking on it. What's that, Count Ralphus?
I like the mascot, so I bought the shirt.
Yeah. Well, I get people to come in my store and sometimes ask, hey, what shirts do you have in purple? I'm like, I don't really sell T-shirts that way. I'm sorry. You'll have to look around.
Purple Rain.
Like, oh, they want to match it to their outfit. So they're like, we need a shirt that has yellow on it. I need a shirt. I'm like, these are band shirts. I'll sell a shirt, of course, because I need to make money, but
It's so weird. It's like including regular clothing stores here in Europe now, like Carlings and stuff. They have like bunch of like Metallica's tour shirts or Ramones and stuff. And if you ask like, so what's your favorite song by Ramones? I'm like, who? Your shirt? I'm like, oh,
oh, that's a band. I just like the shirt. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I remember buying Live After Death. We have a place not far from where I grew up called Hell, or in Norwegian that means luck. So that's kind of different. But for you guys, it sounds much better. It's a lot of metallers, like metal people in Norway, will get married at the train station, and it says Hell. So that's kind of an iconic place. But they have like a shopping center there too. There's a record store where I bought Live After Death. And I bought it purely because of the artwork, because I didn't know much English at the time, and I bought it. And yeah, it has been with me for a long time. Artwork is probably my second favorite, Eddie, because I didn't care for what they did to him in of Peace of Mind. I really liked him when they put him back together and got some hair on him, and then of course I got let down right after again, but that's a different story. as for the album, I mean, I don't know, I have to say maybe it's the perfect live album. I mean, I guess in the vinyl you get like 5 more songs that was recorded in Hammersmith in '84,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, that's
I
right.
never heard when I grew up because I didn't have the vinyl. I had only the CD, and the CD they have edited running free at the end. So because to get it on one CD, so I didn't have to do anything of the things Ralph had to do. But I mean, like it's sad that those songs, well, they didn't make it at the double CD, because those songs that are on from Hammersmith, they are so good. We Die on the Boots on, and Children of the Damned, and Ratchild, and it's kind of, yeah.
Phantom of the Opera, 22 Acacia Avenue.
Right. As for Judas Priest, it's probably my favorite live album of theirs, of course, but it's kind of ironic because in Japan they had a 7-inch when they released the album, and you got like Rock Forever, Delivering the Goods, Hellbent for Leather, and Starbreaker. As in for
Right.
UK, in UK you got a 7-inch too. There you got Rock Forever, Hellbent for Leather, and Beyond the Realms of Death. So I mean, they had enough materials to make it a double live. So I don't know. I've seen the set list from the show in Japan, and it could easily be a double live album. So I don't know what, maybe Judas Priest got screwed over there or something. I don't know. But
Well,
I
when that
definitely.
album got re-released on CD later on,
Mhm.
they put 4 tracks as bonus tracks at the end: Rock Forever, Delivering the Goods, Hellbent for Leather, and Starbreaker.
Yeah, it's the same as the Japan. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you get the remastered CD, you got those 4 tracks at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, back in
my version was
'79,
that.
I mean, in '79, because Delivering the Goods, that was the tour they were on for Hellbent for Leather or Killing Machine for US.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if they have added more songs, it would mean a double album, and
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
But I don't know. As for I have been with our Maiden all my life, so I have to root with Maiden here, and the speech, and like I said on the Powerslave album, it's kind of a thin sound on it. It lacks bottom and top, like Defenders of the Faith does. So the live versions of Aces High and 2 Minutes to Midnight and Powerslave and Reign of the Ancient Mariner is it. I got that before I got the Powerslave album, so that was kind of like a little flip there for me, but I got it into that later. But I will root for our Maiden, of course.
Right.
That happens a lot with what version you hear first ends up becoming the version you love.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you
most
go back
definitely.
to the other version, you don't like it as much. That's happened to me plenty of times.
I mean, I grew up having this on 8-track, so I didn't get any of these bonus tracks. I just got what you were getting on the Unleashed in the East, and you were saying,
Clicks in between.
and the Spotify. I was just looking on my Spotify for notes. You get to Rock Forever, Delivering the Goods, Hellbent for Leather, and Starbreaker if you listen
Yeah.
to it on digital through Spotify at the moment.
Yeah, but it's a little late. They should have gotten that in '79. It would
Yeah,
have
I would have loved to
made a
have
better
it in
impact.
'79. Probably didn't fit on the 8-track.
Well, the other thing too is the labels would have to charge more for the album if it was a double album. And when they would
Right.
do the counts for like a gold album or something, they would count as double, but they didn't sell as good because people didn't have the money for a double album as easy as they did for a single album.
Yeah.
I think Live
Well-
After Death LP was a double album, though, right?
Yeah,
Live
yeah.
After Death,
Live
like
After
years
Death was
later,
double,
this
yeah.
is-
I mean,
we're talking like
Right.
yeah, Priest. I mean, we're comparing albums from how many years different? Maiden,
70 years difference.
7
Yeah,
years.
7 years
Yeah,
apart.
79 to 85. Yeah.
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 And maybe-
And that's
Actually, it
a
wasn't.
big-
Back then, it seemed like it was a longer time, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
What's
I
that,
mean, now
Ralph?
you think 7 years ago it's nothing, but back then, like 79 to 85, especially when you're talking metal, like that was a big difference.
Correct. Now it's nothing.
Judas Priest wasn't that well known, like you were saying earlier. When that album came out, they weren't like a mega band. When Maiden put out Live After Death, they were huge when that
Oh,
happened. So
yeah,
Right.
if
yeah.
you jumped on a double album, no problem. There's no problem to
Correct.
shell out a few extra bucks for the double album. The Priest, they probably would have sold as much if they would have put out a double album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who knows?
As for the
Very
VHS or the video of Live After Death 2 is kind of
Yeah.
interesting because the audio is from several different nights, so it's not the same as the video.
Right. It's consistent.
Hmm.
Yeah, because the part I always remembered when I was a kid, I had the VHS. This is the DVD, which is the part of the history of Iron Maiden Part 2. But
Yeah.
they put the whole show on here, and there's the part where he does like an apology before he does Number of the Beast, and it always bothered me. He was like, people ask, are Iron Maiden satanic? The answer is no, we are not. I hated that. It was like, oh, come on, what are you gonna, let them think whatever they want. You get
Why
at
ruin
that
it?
time,
Right.
PMRC
Let 'em
at the
think.
time was getting on everybody. Like the "Eat Me Alive" song, that was part of the 20 nasty songs for the PMRC. But like Iron Maiden was like doing that. Like it's like I remember seeing hearing a King Diamond interview years like a year later, and I was like, all right, this is the real deal. This guy's like not gonna apologize for what he's singing about. I always thought that was real lame for Maiden to be like, oh, we are not
Well,
satanic.
the first years, our Maiden was under Rod, their manager. He made them go in like a Number of the Beast tour. They went in a tight little van and stuff, and they had the really regime there with tight economics. And so Rod, he had an iron fist around the van until later. So I guess he was Rod that has told him to say that because Bruce Dickinson wouldn't care.
I don't think so. I think if Bruce is, Bruce didn't write those lyrics. I'm pretty sure Steve Harris did. So he just, for some reason, felt like he needed to apologize. But you're selling platinum albums, so no one's worried that you might be satanic and they're not going to buy your album. And we know you're not satanic. It was just a weird thing for me. I always thought that was like a kind of a sellout, like little thing to do.
666, the number of the beast. One for you and
Yeah,
me.
I like when Dave Murray is on Dickens's shoulders when they play that final part of Number of the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Tim.
Yeah. So
Two more heavyweights. What is-
it's just funny when I think about this album, these two albums. So Live After Death, I think that's pretty much like their full stage or their full set list, if I'm not mistaken, from the tour.
Mhm.
Pretty much.
Oh.
I think it was like the whole concert.
Yeah.
And I remember I still have it actually. I got the VHS of the Live After Death on there as well. And Steve was showing all the pictures, and I remember that was amazing. I had it on cassette though. I didn't have the DVD. That was before CDs were really a big thing.
Yeah.
So I still
Yeah,
have
of
the
course.
cassette packed away
Back then
somewhere.
it was, I mean, first we're talking 8-track with Unleashed in the East. We're talking
Right.
cassette with Live After Death or vinyl, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. That's the
Um,
difference of those 7 years right there.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
here's the thing. So I don't know, we always have like this kind of bias, I think, sometimes when we think back about music from like prior to from Unleashed in the East was from 79, even though technically it's only like a 6 years difference. Like for me, but back then it seemed like a lifetime ago. So for me, Unleashed in the East kind of had that majestic kind of thing about it. Or not majestic, but just kind of mythical aura about it, because those were really our first, for me anyways, my first exposure to a lot of those songs. I never heard the studio versions of any of them. So in my mind, even to this day, in the way we perform those songs, we do the Unleashed in the East version of those songs. We don't do the studio versions. So I'm right off the top, I'm giving the edge to Unleashed in the East just simply for that, for me personally. Just because it has that mythical, for me, like being a Rush fan, it's like almost like I'd rather think back to like All the World's a Stage rather than one of the latter live albums, like in terms of favorites. And that's kind of how I feel with these two albums, because for me, the Iron Maiden, I saw that tour. So I don't have the same vibe about it that I would as an album from before I saw them, even compared to like, say it was a Made in Japan or something, that's like more has that vibe about. Because for me personally, that was like when I was discovering them bands. You know, and even for like the Priest Unleashed in the East, that's like, wow, that's before my time, even though it really wasn't. But it was before my time seeing live shows.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like my first exposure to that. So that's always going to give me like an edge in terms of how I view the albums. That being said, Live After Death that's an amazing album. Like I said, I think it was like the whole show. And but for me, I
Sure.
picked Unleashed in the East. Ovi mentioned the thing about it being only a single album, and yeah, that is kind of a bummer because it would have been nice if it was a double album. And but to the point was also made, Ralphus, about the fact that Priest weren't that big at the time either, so there was that as well. But I just give it the edge just because that was like the formative years for me as a Priest fan, and like that's still like iconic just hearing that album. So album cover wise, that's another story. Like art, I'd say just from the artwork, yeah, the Maiden, definitely Alive After Death, but also Unleashed in the East, that's an iconic album cover as well. So
Oh yeah, for sure.
I would give the artwork that would have to go to Live After Death, I would think. But
Yeah.
yeah, these are all tough. They
It's
really are.
artwork. It's
Just a
artwork.
slight
Yeah,
edge to Priest.
where
Yeah.
the priests are like, performance photos and of the band.
Right.
I mean,
mean,
if Unleashed in
that's
the
an
East would
epic
have a
album.
different artwork, and you have
Yeah.
like a gatefold,
Yeah,
an
yeah,
open gatefold with a cover that's on the front. That would be so
Yeah.
cool, and have like a different front work on artwork on the Unleashed in the East. But
Yeah. Cool. So you're giving a slight nod to Unleashed down there, right, Tim?
Yes.
Cool. So I guess that leaves me to close this one out. And then we're gonna talk to Christian before we leave because he's got a story about meeting Judas Priest. So as we look at Unleashed in the East, I agree with a lot of things Tim said. When I got this back in the day, these were most of these songs on here was my first exposure to the band. And I go back to this album all the time. Exciter, Sinner, Ripper, Diamonds and Rust, Victim of Changes, which Rob killed the other night still.
Yes.
Still killing it now. And it's just amazing to sit there and watch him. Like, we had front row in Albany. I lucked out. Albany, I had no guys that bought bleacher seats that went up with me and ended up sitting second row floor because they
Wow.
didn't sell enough tickets. And they didn't sell all the rows up front. We were looking
Wow.
around, and my buddy was
Wow.
like, "Hey, where is there seats on the floor?" And they didn't even show their tickets walking down. Now you
Jeez.
got to show your phone, but they walked down, and we were like, I sent him a picture. I said that these whole rows are empty up front, and they pulled the chairs. What they might have done to pull from the back of the MVP arena was empty, so they pulled those chairs all up, and I think combined them up front. So there was
Yeah.
extra seats on the end of the road. So if you knew, they watch it from second row for $45. So good for
No
them.
kidding.
But
Wow.
we're talking Unleashed in the East as I'm going down to the songs. Genocide, Tyrant.
Yeah.
Just such a killer record and just such great songs. It's tough for me to go against Unleashed in the East, even though I don't know how many times I listened to this album, especially back in the day when this came out. This just played constantly in my record store. Not that Unleashed in the East doesn't play constantly in there still, because they're both on a spin on my iPod that's in the back of the store, which we play music through in the back in the pinball area. But these are in heavy rotation still. Of course, Churchill's speech kicks it off. Such epic, such history. And then Aces High, 2 Minutes of Midnight, The Trooper, Revelations, Children of the Damned. I mean, how do I pick Unleashed in the East if I have this album in my hand now? Do I pick this one now because I'm touching it? It's a tough situation.
It
It really
is.
is. And but we're talking about 22 Acacia Avenue, Phantom of the Opera, two great albums. I'm giving the slight nod to Unleashed in the East, so just because I went back to that so many times. And maybe it's because I just saw Priest twice in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Do this again in October after seeing Maiden, but I don't know. We're going to talk
Where are you
about
going
that.
to see Maiden?
Maiden, I will probably see in Newark.
Yeah.
You have the option to Brooklyn or Newark. Newark's a little bit easier for me to get to.
Got a good
Yeah.
set list. I wonder what set list they will do this tour compared to the last one.
Well, they're doing the Somewhere Back in Time tour, which is a mixture, which you're kind of featuring Somewhere Back in Time, but they're playing some of the new songs from the Senjutsu, which I would rather them just do Somewhere in Time personally.
Usually you get a live album from our Maiden for every tour, but actually there hasn't been a Maiden release in a couple of years, 2, 3
Well, they
since
did the Senjutsu tour already, yes, but now they're doing the tour is the Somewhere in Time tour, isn't that what that's called, Ralph?
Yeah, this is not the first time they've done this before. They put the album out, they do a tour for the album, they promote that album, then they come back around a year or two later and they do the Somewhere Back in Time tour. The one I seen, it stopped at Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, and
Yeah.
it was like they
Look at
didn't
that.
do anything. But yeah, this one I don't know if they're going a little further up now with the Somewhere Back in Time.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're questioning the set list for this, I can Google it and let you know what it is right now
Yeah,
because I
because
don't
the
think
VHS for 12 wasted years. That's a 90-minute documentary for Somewhere in Time tour back in '86. That's supposed to be on the next DVD too
yeah.
and like live at London and stuff. But Rod said many times that he irritates himself really bad that he didn't record a live show from Somewhere in Time tour because that's such great stage and such a good tour.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the average set list for the Future Past is actually what the tour is
Future
called.
Past, that's it. Yeah.
So they're starting off with Caught Somewhere in Time, Stranger in a Strange Land, The Writing on the Wall, which is from
Senjutsu.
The last
Senjutsu,
album, yeah.
Days of Future Past, The Time Machine, The Prisoner, Death of the
That's a good
Celts,
song.
Can I Play with Madness, Heaven Can Wait, Alexander the Great, Fear the Dark, Iron Maiden. Then they come back for the encore, Hell on Earth, The Trooper, and they close it out with Wasted Years. That's the set list coming to the States this fall. I don't think it'll change. I think they played it. They played it. I think if Denny was on the night, Denny saw this tour already because they played in Canada a few months ago. But
Yeah, but I'm
Alexander
wondering.
the Great is they hadn't played in years. So we were all joking about what they were gonna play.
Yeah, I never played it before this tour.
There's a little too much Senjutsu on this for my taste, but I'm not a huge fan of that album. But we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks because we're gonna discuss the newer releases from both bands.
And
As
those
we,
those songs will sound good when they're mixed in
oh
with the
yeah,
fast Maiden songs. You won't
Mhm.
mind them. If they doing all that slow stuff, then you get annoyed with it. But when they throw it in there the right way, it'll sound good.
Yeah.
Yeah, to your question, Tim, the only song from the Life After Death tour that was not on the editions was Sanctuary.
Okay. Yeah, so I said I knew it was pretty much most of the show set list. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, Christian, why don't you tell us your story about the Priest story you wanted to tell us?
All right, so this was back in 2009. Judas Priest was doing the 30th anniversary of British Steel.
Yeah.
Now, technically, it would have been the 30th anniversary of Hellbent for Leather or Unleashed in the East, but you know, whatever, it's all good. So anyway, they were the night before they played the Oakdale in Wallingford, Connecticut. They stayed at the Holiday Inn, which is in North Haven, which is the next town over.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, a friend of mine, his sister, was a waitress and bartender at the restaurant or whatever at that hotel, and she called him and she's like, "Hey, there's a band that's staying here. Like they're at the restaurant right now. They're staying here. Do you know do you know who Judas Priest is?" He's like, "I know who they are." So we rushed down there. And then he gives me a call, tells me like, hey, I'm at the bar right now at Holiday Inn, and fucking Judas Priest is right here. They're like, KK and I'm like, oh fuck, I guess I gotta go. So, we go down there and hang out at the bar, and he's like, hey, look over there. So look over the corner, and I see fucking Ian Hill and KK Downing just fucking sitting there, eating steaks, drinking wine, just like regular. It's like, holy shit. A little bit later on, I guess Ian Hill and some of the road crew. Now, the date that they played at the Oakdale, that was July 5th. So this is the night before. So this is actually the 4th of July, 2009.
Wow.
Yeah. So Ian Hill is out in the front or in the back. I forget where it was, lighting off a fucking Roman candle. Okay. With the road crew. And my friend's like, hey, Ian, happy 4th. He says back, he's like, yeah, wear the bloody red coats. So anyway, so I mean, we're hanging out there for a while. So a little bit later, my friend or one of my other friends, he goes to take a leak. All right. He comes back. Oh, this is like 10 minutes later or 15 minutes later. And he's come back. He's like, dude, I just took a piss next to KK Downing. And he's telling like, the whole, like he had a whole conversation with him. First, he says, he's like, dude, that guy was pissing for like 5 minutes straight. I go, okay. And he's like, he was kind of like stumbling a little bit like through the hall. I'm like, all right, he had a lot of wine, whatever. So I guess like afterward, they're at the sink like washing their hands. So my friend goes up to him and says, hey KK, now that I have your undivided attention, how do you rip that serious solo in Painkiller? So the guitar solo in Painkiller, like that first part where it goes, like, I don't know if it's KK or if it's Glenn, but whatever. My friend's they're talking to KK, so he's asking him the question, and he's just says to him like, "Well, mate, what do you do for work?" He's like, "I build swimming pools." He's like, "Well, good at what you do?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, you do something long enough, you get good at it." And it was just like it's just like such a humble, like down to earth answer. It's just like so, nothing crazy or magical, just like such a just normal type of answer, I guess. My friend was also at the time, he was wearing an Aerosmith t-shirt, and KK like told him, he was like, yeah, they're not very metal. Like wearing but yeah, so we saw Ian Hill, saw KK, and then for at one moment, Glenn Tipton and Scott Travis came in. There was like a whole like entourage with them. I don't know if it was like the road crew or what have you, but I know like there was a group of people came in, and I said like, oh shit, there's Glenn Tipton. And then I look up, I'm like, oh shit, there's Scott Travis. Dude was walking by. He must have had like 10, like, Heinekens or Amstels just like walking by. It's like, oh shit. Like, I assume he's probably not drinking all those from him. So he's probably getting them for different people in the road crew or, what have you. But yeah, no, it was just like, it was probably the one time like in my life where like I truly like felt like starstruck, like meeting a famous band or like a famous, person or whatever. But yeah, it was just like such a surreal moment. I mean, we were like hanging out there. We didn't want to be all like, making a lot of noise. Yeah, Judas Priest. Yeah, we're just kind of like hanging out there, and it's just like, holy shit, like they're fucking. It's just amazing to see, like
But no Rob though,
yeah.
huh? Rob wasn't around.
No, we didn't see Rob Halp. That was the
Wow.
only guy we didn't see, but we saw everyone else in the band. So where was Rob at that moment? I don't know. But yeah, no, it was cool. So yeah, we saw, Ian and KK, they were like hanging out like pretty much the whole time together. And Glenn and Scott, they came with their entourage and they were around for like about 5 minutes, and then they kind of like, just walked off. But yeah, it was just like such a cool and it's easy, on the 4th of July, it's just like
Yeah.
he's just goofing off, like lighting off fireworks and shit. It was awesome. And he had a sense of humor about it too. It was pretty cool. So
Get any
and then
pictures or autographs?
what's that?
Did you get any pictures or autographs?
No, my friend got an autograph. I didn't get any pictures. I think I was just like too like starstruck. Like I felt like too embarrassed to like ask him.
Yeah.
But my friend like and his I think it's his because like she was working at the restaurant. Like they got the autograph. So it's like, all right. I was just like, once I heard like they were there, it's like, oh, do I bring my records with me to bring them to sign? I'm just like, no, I just want to fucking go because I don't know how long they're gonna be. Maybe they're just gonna go up to the room and I'm not gonna see them. So I'm just like, fuck it, I'm gonna get there as soon as I can to see if I could like see these guys. And then I get there, and it's just like, holy shit, that's kicking. That's fucking Ian just sitting out there, fucking, having dinner. It's like, and they're eating dinner. It's like I don't want to like go up and bother these guys while they're
No,
like,
you definitely don't want to go
Right.
up to people that are
but
eating
it's like,
dinner.
oh,
Hey, can
you're
I
at
have
the
a
bar, you're
picture?
just like sipping on your drink. You're kind of looking over like, there's those guys, but no, it was no, it was cool to see a band, and the fact that they were in North. So that's the town that I grew up in. So the town that I grew up in, the town that I went to high school in, to see like your fucking heavy metal heroes like in your town, and be able to meet them, like it's nothing beats it, man. So.
So
That's
you're-
awesome.
You were even super psyched probably to go the next night after that.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it was, and it was funny. Like the next night, so I think Whitesnake opened for them on that tour, and I remember like David
Yep.
Coverdale when he's singing between songs, he had just gotten his American citizenship, and he's like, "Yeah, it's the fourth. It's like I guess I should be celebrating but crying in my beer at the same time," or he said something like that. Yeah, it definitely made me more. I know me and my friend were already planning to go to the show. We already had tickets and everything, but just to like just to see, and they played there a bunch. I mean, we just saw them there like last month.
Yeah,
or-
yeah.
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 So
And me and my friends, like, you know what?
Yeah, Tim was there too. Yeah, all three
Yeah,
of us
it's
were
like,
there.
you know what? We should have went to we should have went to the hotel the night before to see if we like run into those guys again. But
I
That's-
did get to meet them on the Firepower tour.
Oh
They were
wow.
playing in Albany, but they played the Palace Theater 2 nights in a row.
Yep.
And we went to they must have played Saturday, Sunday. So friends of mine that live here in Springfield, they went up. He's like a huge Judas Priest fan. That's his favorite band. He worships
Mhm.
Judas Priest. Him and his girlfriend, they got a hotel up there. And as it turns out, the band was staying at the hotel that they got the room in, because he got a chance to meet Ian Hill, and I guess he just met Ian earlier in the day. But after the show, we went and hung out at the hotel, and we waited in the limo. They had one of those big van limos, and the whole band was in it. Of course, they all got out, and I got to say hi to each one of them. But Halford and Andy Sneap stayed outside for a few minutes, and were signing autographs. And I got a chance to get a picture with Halford, and I showed him a picture of the British Steel. He says, "Oh yeah, I know who you guys are." So that made me feel good. He knows who British Steel is. So that was kind
That's
of cool.
cool.
But I got a picture with him too. But that was pretty awesome. I was shocked when I thought he was just gonna say, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And he's like, "No, I know you guys are." So that was
That's
neat.
awesome.
But that was the Firepower tour. So
Yeah.
that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I met Rob Halford back on the Operation Rock and Roll tour at the Meadowlands Arena, Bread and Burn Arena, whatever we want to call it. We were talking about that. I was a guest of Epic Records then. Back
Nice.
when the album, when you would get in through the record companies for a lot of stuff like that, for meet and greets and whatnot. You don't see as much of that now, do we, James? Retailers, we don't get as much of that stuff as like we used to. But anyhow, yeah, I got a picture with them
Shit.
there. It was Operation Rock and Roll, and then that same tour came to Middletown about a week later, and that's the Operation Rock and Roll had like Alice Cooper, Judas Priest,
Motorhead,
Metal Church, and
Dangerous
Dangerous
Toys.
Toys. And
Dangerous Toys.
Lemmy didn't play Middletown because he fell off a stage and broke his foot or something to that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Broke his arm or broke something. But then I also met Rob Halford once. It was Iron Maiden. I think it was Brave New World tour at Wilkes-Barre, and Halford was opening up with Halford along with
Halford
Queen,
Band.
right? And Halford was there, and we were just standing. Like if you ever been to the Wilkes-Barre amphitheater, there's like a little gate that you can look backstage kind of, and we were just standing, a pulley of mine, and we were like leaning on the fence, looking back, seeing who was back there. And Rob Halford actually was walking and looked over at us and walked over. We didn't take a picture or anything, but he walked over and said, "Hey, how you guys doing?" I thought he might have, maybe he thought he knew one of us from somewheres, but we had a quick, "Hi, how you doing?" And he walked away.
Cool.
That was my other
That's
time
cool.
of meeting him.
Cool.
If I was hanging out with Caffrey last week, I'm sure I would have got to meet him last week. I should have
Yeah.
went with Caffrey to Albany. But anyhow,
I told a story recently on one of these episodes where I had like a similar thing where I was checking out at the hotel in the morning, and there's Ian Hill right in front of me, and I got a picture with him. And we seen Rob Halford walking out into a different separate tour bus, and then Glenn Tipton was with his family following in a car, and the drummer and
Oh, yeah.
KK jumped in the bus, but we got autographs and stuff, but they didn't want. And then I met him on Redeemer of Souls. They did the record signing in New York City, and we were online to
That's
get into
right.
the Hard Rock Cafe, and they came down the street in a like 1953 black Cadillac and convertible, and they pulled up right in front of us. So we got pictures of them coming out of the car, and then everybody who bought the CD got it signed. And we took a picture inside, but it was kind of dark, and they didn't really want to have like pictures with too many people outside, so they let us take a real quick one.
Levy, who's been on the channel a few times, he had Wait tonight. I was trying to get Levy to come on because he's a huge Judas Priest fan. Me and him went to the Albany show together, and we were talking. They had a meet and greet signing for Firepower in New York City. And us being pinball heads, there was one of the classic pinball machines is called Firepower. And he was going to take that back glass and have them sign the Firepower pinball. But then at the very last minute, he didn't think they'd let him bring that into the thing. So he never got it signed in hindsight, but I thought that was an interesting story.
Most of the times with those meet and greet things, you can only get what the current album
Like
is
the
selling.
album, yeah. So yeah,
I've been to a bunch of those.
Because someone would bring a million things from the sign, and the line would take forever.
Yeah.
I've
makes
got a
sense.
story. I've got a story about Dave Mustaine being a cocksucker at one of those.
Wow.
Yeah, big time.
Well, now I guess you better tell us.
Okay.
We're going to talk
Okay.
Megadeth on the Priest episode and Maiden.
All right. So, Heaven and Hell, Megadeth, Machine Head.
I saw
They're
that in
all
Albany.
playing at Mohegan Sun
Yep.
in 2007. And the deal was if you showed up early to the show and there was a record store in Mohegan Sun, what the fuck was the name of it? Something Streets. I got the thing around somewhere. Anyways, you show up to the record store and you buy the Black Sabbath with Dio Greatest Hits CD, and you buy the new Megadeth album at that time, which was United Abominations.
Okay.
You got to meet Megadeth before the show, and you got to meet Sabbath after the show.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. So me and my bandmates in Left in Ruins at the time, we went over there. We had the tickets. Our singer's sister worked for a dude that was a high roller. So he gave her the tickets. He goes, I don't listen to this heavy metal shit. Don't you have a brother that's in a band that does heavy metal or whatever? And she's like, yeah, he'll love this. So we got the tickets for the show. We showed up early. We went to the record store. We got the Megadeth CD. We got the Black Sabbath CD. And then we got like a pass for the Black Sabbath thing for after the show. So we got time to kill. We're walking around. We ran into the drummer from Machine Head. He was super fucking cool. And then the line starts for the Megadeth meet and greet. So we're like, I don't know, there's maybe 10 people in front of us. And one of the people in front of us is this young dude. If he was 18 years old, he was old for 18. He was a young kid. And he had a guitar case with him. So there's people walking up and down the line going, hey, just so everybody knows, Megadeth are only signing United Abominations. Nothing else. They are only signing United Abominations. So Megadeth finally show up. They sit at the table. People start coming up. And Dave Mustaine is looking at the line, and he sees this kid with the guitar case. So he turns and looks at a security guard, and he grabs the security guard. Security guard comes over, and you couldn't hear nothing, but you see Dave Mustaine pointing and he's pissed off, and whatever he's saying in the security guard's ear, he's fucking mad about. So the security guard comes up to this kid and he pulls him off to the side. He goes, "Hey, what's in the fucking guitar case?" And he goes, "Oh, okay." So he opens it up, and it was a brand new Dean Dave Mustaine issued guitar with the Rust in Peace artwork on it. He goes, "I
Yeah, I
just
know
bought
that.
this. I've saved up money for months to get this guitar. I really just want Dave to sign this for me." Security guard goes, "Nope. I'm taking your guitar, and now you're going to the back of the fucking line."
Wow.
So that didn't sit right with me. So I get up to the table, and James Lomenzo was playing bass for them at the time, and I love that dude. He was in Black Label Society.
Mhm.
Super cool guy. The Drover brothers were playing drums and guitar in Megadeth at that time. Super cool guys. And Dave Mustaine was just sitting like this, and he's signing CD covers, and he's not looking at anybody, and he's just flipping the CD covers back at everybody. Next,
Wow.
next.
Having a bad
So
day.
I got in front of Dave, and I put my CD cover in front of him, and I put my hand under his nose, and I'm like, "Dave, dude, I fucking love you so much, man. I've been listening to you for decades. You're one of my fucking favorite singers and guitar players. I fucking love Megadeth." He wouldn't even acknowledge my existence.
Oof.
Next. And
Sounds
he
like
flips
Ace
my
Frehley.
fucking, what's that?
Sounds like Ace Frehley when I met him years ago.
Really? Ace was a dick to you?
Oh yeah.
So I'll let you get to that, but I
Hmm.
grab my Megadeth cover and I hand him a Left in Ruins CD. And I go, "Dave, I'm in this band. You're a huge influence on us. I just want you to listen to our disc, man." He grabs the CD, still never looked in my face, and threw it down on the floor next to him. Next. So as I grabbed my Megadeth CD and turned away, I went, "Wow, he's still mad about the Metallica thing, huh?" And he went and looked at me in the back, and I saw him in the back of my eye, and I walked away because I knew he was going to get security to come after me. But I burned his fucking balls real quick right there, and he deserved it. He was being a fucking cunt that day. But then when we went and saw him, he's out on stage and he's smiling and he's happy and he's headbanging, and Megadeth was insanely great. I don't know. Bipolar maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe he didn't get his medication. Who knows?
Having a
Maybe
bad
he needed
day.
to reach around. I don't know.
Well, when I met Ace Frehley, that were way off topic. Me and Brian Rapp of Bent Circus, who was a local band back in the day, he actually
I
worked
remember
for me
them.
for a while, Bent Circus, and we drove to the Fishkill Record World, and
Okay.
Ace Frehley was signing autographs. So, of course, Brian was huge Kiss fan. I mean, I'm a big Kiss fan too, but at that
Me
time
too.
period, I probably wasn't as big of a Kiss fan as I was because I was getting more into the extreme stuff. But anyhow, we went there. He did a similar to what you did. I had a Rock Fantasy decal and something else at my record store. He took the decal and he took it in his hand and he threw it like that.
Ugh.
And my friend Brian was so disappointed. He said sometimes it's just not good to go meet your heroes because you don't
Yeah.
know. Because they could be jerks or they could just be having a bad day.
True.
You know, I had
But when they're at a
I had
signing,
a
they should be cool when they're at a signing, though. Even if
Yeah.
you're having a bad day, you're at a signing,
I
you get
agree.
through it.
a signing, yeah. Now I had some other friends of mine that were mad they loved Zach Wilde. And they were so mad at Zach Wilde because they waited for him to come off the bus one night and he didn't go with the bus. I said, "How do you know what Zach was doing in the bus? Maybe something came up. Maybe that's why he didn't come out." But I don't know. We're done with Zach Wilde. He didn't come out of the bus. So, yeah, just things go on.
I got to tell you, I met Zach Wild. I got a long story about that.
We'll talk
He's a
about
fucking
that.
sweetheart.
We'll
He's a
have to talk
sweetheart.
about that in another episode.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a Black Label Society episode sometime. We've never talked about
Oh, I
Black
would
Label
love
Society
to.
on this channel at all. So
Yeah.
they're coming
Now I'm looking for
around.
Priest.
They're doing it. Oh yeah, they're doing a festival maybe an hour from here in September. It's
They're in studio
Berserker
I
right
Fest.
saw that. Yeah.
Yep, It's over in Stroudsburg at this amphitheater that was built in the woods, where it's in the middle of nowhere. When I tell you
That's
this,
awesome.
it's an amphitheater, a little like PNC, a little Bethel Woods in the middle of nowhere. I saw Kiss there in 2011, and Paul Stanley comes out and he goes, "People, where do you people live?" He's like, he's like, do you where do you live? Like, I mean, it's off Route 209 between here and Stroudsburg, and it's like you go up this road, and then this field is an amphitheater. It was built in the early 2000s. I think it was open a season, closed down. It opened in 2011. They had a few shows like Kiss, ZZ Top, closed up again. Somebody must have lost their ass building this thing, and now it's open again. But I don't think last year, I think Leonard Skinner played there, so it was open last year. But this year, that's the only thing I know of it there. It's like Pocono Park or something it's called now. But interesting. But we're way off topic. So anyhow, we were talking about Priest and Maiden. We went off. I think this is something we usually do. We usually stop record and we talk like this. So sometimes it's the best conversation we have in the night, though. But
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank James and Count Ralphus and Christian and Ovi and Tim for joining me tonight. And please comment your favorites from these albums and whatever else we're chatting about. And we'll see you next week on the Rock Fantasy Files. Whether it'll be another Maiden Priest or Ovi will hijack us again. Ovi
You
hijacks
never know.
the channel. I mean, it's like he's stealing cars, stuff like that. So. But we'll figure it out, and we got plenty of stuff going on as we kick into June. I hope everyone had a great Memorial Day in the States, and we will see you next time on the Rock Fantasy Files.
All right.